Record and get us started. So, hello, everybody from Unlimited Wisdom. Welcome to the Master's Mind. Again, we're absent of Craig because he's performing. So, hi, Jane. Hi, Matthew. I see Deborah Grady is coming on. Ezra, Hannah, Sherry, Dustin, Melody, Lisa Marie, Deborah Bronner, Shelly, Mary, Tom Booth, Mike, and Trish. Great to have you on here. And Mr. Shoemaker. He always, for some reason, gets on the other side of me. He must the whatever must know, Zoom must know. Put him first. Always put Bill first. So the thing I'm going to share with you guys, I'm not going to be long today, but it's so funny that a lot of times I watch some. For some of you that don't know this, I'm a big UFC mixed martial arts fan, right? And so last night it was pretty interesting because they went to a whole new network to think that they were showing the history of the UFC and whether you like them or not, to think that at one time every every state in the United States thought the UFC should be outlawed. Isn't that crazy? And there was only one city, Atlantic City, and so even though the state of New Jersey was banned it, the city of Atlantic City didn't ban it. So it was pretty interesting that it slow but sure not only went worldwide but also went United States wide. And then they got so big that 7 years ago they got on ESPN and they were doing pay-per-view. So to be on ESPN was just crazy, right? And so last night they celebrated their first day on Paramount Plus. And so normally to watch the big fights that happened last night, it's $80 for pay-per-view. But last night, for the first time, if people had a Paramount Plus subscription, they got to watch a UFC fight. So they said the numbers were double, more than double that usually watch a UFC fight. And what I find amazing about that is, of course, because I've been a fan and me and my sons were in martial arts, it was like to watch how far it's growing. And so there was two things that was brought up. One of the things that I always love is that when they interview the fighters, that the fighters are very, very bold, whether they win or lose, as they just say, I just want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I couldn't do anything without him. They're very, very bold. And I always thought that it was really funny that people go, like in football and other sports, when people thank God, for having a great day, people are going like, well, they always say that on wins, and they don't. They they say it on losses too, because the biggest prayer is just for no one to get injured, no one to get hurt, to make sure that all that is going great. And I'm bringing this up because the title I want to do is just not only your words but your thoughts. So a lot of people will, they're building their relationship with God. And, one of the things that it says in the Bible, that you'll be judged for every idle word that comes out of your mouth. And so I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but, in 1 John 4:8, it says, anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. So you're not supposed to use your words to cast spells or negative things on your brothers and sisters if you love them. And one of the things that I know that you'll see throughout the Bible in stories is that we all know that people get caught up. We get caught up in people around us, and we're supposed to be an individual that shows our light. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. But my people by their fruit. And there is so much chaos going on in the world today. I just want you guys to hear this one statement, and it's powerful. It's that, do you guys realize that some people will never read the Bible, but they'll judge the relationship of why they need to be a Christian based on who you are? Do you realize that you're the Bible for some people? And you'll notice that a lot of people will say this all the time. They're going, the reason that I'm not a Christian is because the people that I know are the most judgmental, hateful people in the world. And I remember one time that someone said this. They went, when someone said, "Hey, well, listen, I'm looking forward to doing business with you because I'm a Christian." And people say, "Man, when someone says they're a Christian, that usually is a big warning sign. That's a big red flag, because people that confess themselves as being a Christian sure don't show love. They're very critical, very judgmental, quick to be influenced by others." And so if you guys know some of the Bible stories, it's like a number of the ones that I'll share with you is one time Jesus, was just sitting, and a woman came up and started washing his feet with her hair. And she was a prostitute. And so all of a sudden, Jesus could feel what other people, including his disciples, were thinking. They wasn't even saying it. And he said, "You should be ashamed, and you're sinful for your thoughts." Because they were thinking, wow, why would Jesus allow a woman to wash his feet with her hair because she's a prostitute? And it was their thinking of what he said. Why would you think this of this woman? She already knows what she is, but she's washing my feet because she'd rather be something better. She'd like to be renewed. She'd like the renewing of her mind. She would like people to not judge her for making a mistake. And also in the biblical times, there's another story where, a woman was being banished. Now, I think this is pretty interesting, that if a woman got caught doing adultery, she got stoned to death. So she just got drugged to, the center square, and everyone threw rocks on her until she died. And if a man got caught committing adultery, he just got to leave the city. I don't know if that sounds fair or not. It doesn't sound like equal deal here, right? But when someone brought her, to the square, if you guys can remember, Jesus showed up and said, "Whoever hasn't sinned, cast the first stone." And so it is interesting that a lot of people might not get caught up in it, but don't you guys see, like all over the world, that people get caught up in one side or the other, and they get based on someone's opinions other than their own, but then they go on the internet and they go throughout the whole world and have conversations that are not very loving. They're not very loving. They rather just get caught up in the influence of whatever group and then start casting stones at the other side. Don't you guys find this interesting? And it's like, if you really were focused on helping others and loving others, all of your focus should be toward that, not looking on social media to try to get upset or pick a side and think that, you can be a justice warrior. And so if you look through the Bible like I normally do, before I get on here, I always think of, and how this came up is really, really simple. You guys will love this. If you haven't seen it, you can go watch it. You probably won't. But Dana White always does a post-fight show. Now, Dana White is the president and used to be the owner of UFC. until he sold it for like $3 billion, but they only would give him $3 billion for the UFC as if he stayed on and ran it. How many people want that job? You know what I mean? It's like, we'll make you a billionaire, but we still want you to run it. And it's like, okay. And so last night, like he always does, he has all these people ask him all these questions about the fights or whatever, right? And a couple of questions went great. And then a guy said this. He just said, "Hey, listen, I heard you already picked the fights for the Washington, the 250-year anniversary of the United States, and the fights happening at the White House." And he went, "That's the beginning of 26." He says, "I'm going to tell you straight out, I apologize for what I'm about ready to say to you." And he said, "I have to make this example, every once in a while. But I need to ask you this question. Where'd you hear that from?" And the guy, you could hear him, he got nervous and went, "What?" And he goes, "I'm only going to ask you the question again. If you don't answer it, you'll be escorted out of here, and you'll never be allowed in again." Where did you hear that? And he said, "Well, I seen a couple of people posting about it on the internet." And he goes, "If you can't be an adult and learn to do your job right, if you ever ask me a question that you haven't researched, that you heard about something on the internet," he says, "you'll never be allowed in here again." Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Don't ever come to me and say, "Listen, I heard about something. Would you answer this question based on some stuff I heard on the internet?" He goes, "Can I make that perfectly clear to you?" And he goes, "And so I'm not picking on you." He goes, "How many people have heard this speech before in the audience?" And every other journalist in there raised their hands. He's going, "Listen, if somebody hired you to come here to get information about me and the UFC, just do your effing job. Make sure the questions that you ask me are real, legit questions and not stuff that you heard from somebody on the internet. Are we clear?" And he goes, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "You have any other questions?" He goes, "I do not." and everyone started cracking up. And I think I shared this with you guys because it just brought it back to me when I hung around a couple of very, very successful mentors. Roger Penske is worth billions of dollars. And it just reminded me the time he got in my face in front of everybody going, what you just said to me. You asked me, you brought this up, this idea up. Where'd you hear that from? How do you know that's true? And he totally humiliated me in front of a group of about 70 people. But do you know that now, even today, when I look at something even briefly on the internet, I don't respond on anything that I see on the internet. Yeah, I love and appreciate you. Yeah, congratulations, I'm proud of you. But there's nothing I post on the internet that's not positive. Because if I found something on the internet, how do I know it's true? See, I know people, regardless, I know you guys have heard these phrases before, but I'll give you a really neat example. Have any one of you heard the phrase that a pancake has two sides? Let me share something with you. Another billionaire, Roger Penske said to me, and I want you guys to really think of this. The person that I learned this exercise from was Bob Proctor. So Bob Proctor said that when it comes to a problem, he'll sit in a chair, take out a white piece of paper with lines on it, he always said, and I'd write down in detail what the problem is. Write it down in detail. He said, when I wrote it down in detail, then what I always imagined was three other perspectives sitting at the table or sitting at my desk. And he said the first one is what seemed to be huge problems for me were not problems for other people. He goes, have you ever thought about that? You can say, oh my God, this is awful. This is a tragedy. And there's other people that just don't care. Why don't they care? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to find food because they haven't eaten in 3 days. Maybe they're trying to find shelter. Maybe they're have a little more immediate needs than something that you think is the worst thing that you've ever seen in your life. And maybe some of those even come from a place of gratitude. So he said, I would make myself look at it at a different perspective. What is the opposite of what I wrote down is what I think is this incredible problem that needs to be cured. He said, when I wrote the opposite, because a lot of times the opposite is not the right answer. He goes, but then I would set myself in the center of my desk and I'd look at the perception between the two. Now, some people call this person sometimes a mediator or maybe a marriage counselor. Because what could really be something that's very significant to one individual is not at all to the other. Does that make sense? But a mediator or a person in the center of those two views would go, what's the common ground here? What are you both trying to accomplish? And then they try to find out a way between those two. Whenever you have a mediator, have you guys ever seen how people are so competitive? It's like when you have a mediator, if I was sitting with Mike and Trish, both of them would be going, see, Trish, you should be listening to Robert. And Trish is going, see, Mike, I told you. Why can two people that look at a person talking will pick out the things that they perceive that they're right in that same conversation? Have you guys ever seen somebody do that? I think it's hilarious. Did you hear what he said? Yeah, he said that you were an idiot. No, he did not. He was saying you were an idiot. You know what I mean? So it's pretty interesting. And then for this conversation, there's a fourth perspective, and that's God's perspective, right? So there's my perspective, there's your perspective, there's someone that's mediating between us, their perspective, and then there's God's perspective. And out of everything that you see, I know one thing. If it's not around making your light shine, and it's not around love, you're probably off God's perspective. Do you guys know that I've even found people that will show me scriptures in the Bible? Well, didn't you see Jesus flipped over the money changers? And I'm going like, didn't you know that, God started a flood and wiped out everything other than, Noah and a few people? It's like, yeah, but I'm not God and neither are you. If God created everything and all of a sudden he's mad and he wants to wipe out a bunch of stuff, that's his prerogative. Don't you agree? I just thought of a funny statement. How many people have heard a parent say, I brought you into this world and I can take you out? It's like, so I got to give God, that kind of power. You know what I mean? That if he created us, yeah, he can take us out. But the biggest thing I wanted to share with you guys here today is just really be careful of not taking the incredible time that God gave you on this planet. He made you a miracle. He loves you. And sometimes I think that he looks at us all the time. You know what I mean? I had this guy that he probably was in his 90s. And the guy said, "What kind of wisdom can you give us?" And he says, "I don't know what years it was, but I feel like it was like, 20 years ago, that all of a sudden I knew that God was everywhere, but I never ever thought of him just constantly being in a room that I was always in and he was looking at me." And he said, as soon as I got that perspective, I started treating my wife different. I started treating my kids different. I started treating everyone different because he goes, "Don't you act a little differently when someone that you care about is watching you?" And he goes, "It wasn't anything other than not me thinking I'm doing wrong. It's like, would my father be proud of me? Could I do things on a day-to-day basis with people to make my father proud of me? That I could just have thoughts all day of, wow, in my past I handled that differently, and I hope you're proud of me." How about being proud of yourself? Patting yourself on the back because you didn't get caught up in some kind of group dynamics. It's like it's really, really crazy. I'm far from perfect, far from perfect. And I thought I'd share these things with you because I found myself over the last couple of crazy months getting caught up in things where it doesn't matter. If we ask God, "Hey, how would you like to handle this?" I really truly believe it would be, you should be the kind of person that the rest of the world looks at that goes, "Wow, here's another person that's making people smile, telling them that I love them, telling them how much they're enough, how much they're a miracle, how much they're unique." That people around us should be edified and lifted up. And I could easily find a group of people to hate on because that's what the worst of the world is doing. They're too busy throwing stones at each other. Wasn't it uh, Winston Churchill that said, if you just got focused on what you were supposed to do, instead of throwing rocks at all the barking dogs? I'm probably way off, but it's that same kind of thing as, you shouldn't throw stones if you live in glass house. But let me share just a couple of quick things with you. I just asked the AI before I got on here, and I went and looked them up, and it says, "What does the Bible say about our words?" The Bible speaks very strongly in its consistency about the power of our words and how powerful our tongue is. It creates healing and it also destroys. It blesses and it also creates wounds. Scripture teaches words as spiritual forces like a sword. So death and life are from the power of our tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. I tell you, on this day of judgment, people will give you an account of every careless word they've ever spoke. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when we die, but how many of you would like to be standing in front of our Creator and He brings up on a PowerPoint all the stuff we posted on social media? You're like, wow. Maybe, okay. For out of the abundance of our heart, our mouth speaks. I've always found this interesting. Is, how many of you have heard someone talk or the way they talk, and immediately you feel sorry for them because you go, man, this person's suffering. This person's been through a lot of trauma, broken heart, broken spirit, whatever, because who they are inside is how they talk. So it still breaks my heart this day when I talk to somebody and they go, well, you don't know me. And I go, what do you mean? Well, everything I touch turns to shit. I'm lazy. I'm not smart. And they just beat the crap out of themselves with their words while they're explaining to you why they can't do this. And it's like, listen, all I do is all day, every day, try to find people and try to give them hope, try to lift them up, tell them that if I could do it, they could do it. And you're telling me all the reasons that you can't do this, that this is not for you, that no one likes you, that everybody, everyone I talk to, they already talk themselves out of any happiness, joy, or peace. For me, when I hear someone talk like that, I'm just like going, it's just, it's just sad. So in closing here, it says, according to the Bible, our words carry power and reveal our hearts and shape our life. So we are called to speak with wisdom, truth, and love. So that's all I have today. I hope you guys have a great, 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 great Sunday. Any passing words, love? You don't think saying positive words are a good thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not all in the Bible like you, so.
Anytime I quote things out of the Bible or say God says to Terry, like, oh my God, I don't know. And that's okay too. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. I'll unmute you guys and unmute everybody so you can say goodbye. Goodbye, Star. Bye. Goodbye, Shelley.
Bye, everyone. Stay safe.
Faith, Scott, Jane.
Love you.
Matthew,
Thank you.
Ezra.
Guys.
Thank you, Robert. Thank
Sherry, Dustin.
You're awesome, Robert.
You're warm.
You're awesome.
See you
You're
later.
awesome,
Goodbye,
Bill.
everyone.
Love you, Tom.
Bye.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Love
both.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris.
Have a
Thank you,
great day.
Dustin.
Bye.
Deb.
Love and appreciate you.
Melody.
Bye.
Scott.
Does Deb have a question?
Great message.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Have a
you.
good
Love you
day.
guys. If I missed your name, I'm
Bye.
sorry.
Bye, everybody.
Take your sun, Ray.
Already did.
All right, Deb. Thank you. Thank you.